and welcome back. Today, I have the privilege of having two great ones with me. On my left, I have Christian Palmer, and then I have Dr. Eric Fate, who'll be joining us in a little bit. But first, I want to mention today's episode is sponsored by bioedgesciences, 100% natural health and fitness drinks, proprietary signature flavoring system, ensuring mouth-watering taste. Finally, all natural tastes great. And not that that's the truth. So, 100% natural, don't compromise your health. Know what you're consuming, know what you're eating, read the ingredients, but definitely check them out. We're going to talk more about some of their products right here. Christian's the expert. First, to tell you a little bit about the platform. What we're doing here is we're really emphasizing the role of the trainers working with the doctors, connecting doctors, trainers, gym owners, athletes, working together for optimal health and performance. And the guests that I have on in the past, that's the one common interest. Everyone wants to optimize their clients' health, their members' health, their athletes' performance, doing it the right way, providing the good information, connecting with these people that are going to give you the right information and guide you with proper protocols, proper programs, but first identifying immediate needs and deficiencies, such as, looking at blood work, labs, food sensitivity testing, which we'll be talking about a little bit. Gut health is huge today, the gut-brain connection, the way you think, feel, and look. It all starts in the gut, and many people don't think about that connection, but it's so true. But our platform here is, I am the business development director and host of Muscle and Fitness Plus. And that is alongside of the global brands, Muscle Fitness Hers, Flex, and of course, the renowned Mr. Olympia Weekend, a combination of bodybuilding, sports, health, wellness, and of course, anti-aging. Now, anti-aging is real. It's possible, of course, chronologically. You cannot change that number, but we know what is possible is that you can definitely physiologically change the way you look and feel. We see it time and time again. When you associate yourselves with the experts, reaching out to people like Christian and Dr. Eric, just to get information and get you on your journey and path to optimal health and performance. So with that said, just talk a little bit about Christian. Christian is a bodybuilding pro, competition coming up in November, Top Gun trainer, and a nutritionist, I believe, through Precision,
yes.
Right? Precision, great organization.
Yes.
So Christian, just tell the listeners a little bit. Well, first, the listeners, thank you so much to you. You make this possible. We want to really give you quality information and giving you the best advice. Everyone we have on the show is extremely knowledgeable, very well respected in their field. And that's what we want to do for you. So thank you very much for listening and tuning in. So Christian, fire away.
All right. So I own a business called Relentless Fitness and Nutrition, where we focus on helping men regain vigor, ignite their confidence, and achieve their fitness goals through conquering nutrition. A brief idea about myself is I've been a coach, been a nutritionist for upwards of about 15 years. And I got into this industry. More importantly, my spark for helping people with nutrition and specifically men's health actually started with my mom when she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Of course, love mom, want her to be around as much as possible. So I figured, I'm like, okay, I have to figure out a way to help her. So after doing enough reading and enough learning, I was able to help her make better health choices. And now she no longer needs insulin, which is awesome. And once I helped her with that, I figured, well, if I helped her, I can help other people. And then I started as a trainer years ago at Equinox. I started to get more men over 40, and I realized a lot of them shared the same issues and the same passions. They had back pain. They had, knee pain. They wanted to be great providers and protectors for their families, but they wanted to be able to play with their kids without pain, right? They didn't want to say, hey, daddy will sit this one out. We'll play tomorrow. And low sex drive. They had a lot of zeros in the bank, but they did not feel like the great men they knew they were, and more importantly, knew they wanted to be. And I shared some of those same passions. Like, I want to be a good provider and protector, and I want to live up to my full potential. So, hearing the struggles that they had and then being able to help them really inspired me to want to do more of it and to learn more and associate myself with individuals like Dr. Eric, who can actually deliver the protocols, besides the the health and nutrition
That's
side.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
And,
awesome.
and just make these men essentially be the men they know they can be.
And they would not have that information if you were not working with a doctor, or if you were not on the same page as how much of a benefit or value that brings to the table when working with these clients. So I'm sure the changes that you have made in clients have to be so satisfying, when you see people change. And, as I always say, a trainer is one of our greatest assets, and a shame that so many have to surrender because they just can't manage their business well. But that's what we're also about too. We want to help you, one, monetize your business, help increase your streams of revenue, doing it the right way, like I said. But this is a game changer. And as Christian just said, he was inspired by his mom. That was very cool when I read that. That's what ignited that fire. Obviously keep yourself in great shape. But we also have Dr. Eric Fate here with us. So welcome to our show, Dr. Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Eric is a hormone specialist, helps active adults lose weight and optimize hormones so they can look and feel their best. Owner of Primex. You can find him at drericprimex.com, which is a preventative health, age management, and peak performance company that provides nutrition, products, and educational materials, physician-grade supplements, hormone therapy, and personalized health plans for maximum health and vitality, performance, and wellness. So, Dr. Fate, again, thank you for joining us. So first, how did you guys connect? You and Christian?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we met up on social media, right, Christian, some time ago.
Yes, actually, I had learned about Dr. Eric through Ali Gilbert. And then I had actually followed him on social media. But more importantly, I was watching the information that Dr. Eric posts. And I realized
Great information.
Exactly. Even though someone is a doctor and maybe they claim that they are great at what they do, I'm more so judged by what I see. And then, the first time Dr. Eric and I communicated, I'm like, this guy he's great at what he does. He lives the lifestyle, he's fit. Right. And which is actually more than you can say for a lot of doctors. A lot of doctors do not live the lifestyle.
I was just going to say that, how often do you walk into a doctor's office and then it'll prescribe you or explain to you the right things to do. But meanwhile, impression is everything. If you're going to tell me how to optimize my health and performance, but you're not taking care of your own health and performance, I'm not going to be really too interested.
Exactly. And seeing how many people he's helped, we had actually done a podcast a while back, and I learned a lot about Dr. Eric and his process and how he helps individuals. And I love the fact that he takes a holistic approach. He doesn't just look at, hey, let's just give you this protocol. It's what's your lifestyle? What's your sleep like? What's your stress like?
Diving into what's causing potential issues, correct, identifying needs and deficiencies without here, take this one and done as what we all know is the wrong way, so making lifestyle adjustments and changes. But as we all know, it's a full spectrum of things. It's not just one thing. Identify the root of the problem. And then, as you said, that connection. And I think also, you have, there's great trainers out there, very knowledgeable, very talented, very skilled, very passionate, but the one defining difference that I think makes the big difference is that connection. So I can see when I'm speaking to you and Dr. Fate, you dive into the individual, you're talking to that person, you really want to know what's going on, how can I help you, how can we improve your life? So when you make the initial assessment with your clients, so I would assume you suggest or recommend they get their blood work,
100%.
And you get their labs, and then you would review that with Dr. Fate. Is that how that would work?
So what would happen is the client comes to me and always talk about, of course, what their goals are, what their lifestyle is. I want to know what their sleep is like, what their stress is like, what keeps them up at night, what their nutrition habits are, what their career is, because that tells you a lot about what they deal with on a daily basis. Do you have kids? And then once I find those things out, and let's say for me, I deliver a nutritional protocol, let's say that man is still not feeling optimal, right? My sex drive is low. I don't have the vigor that I know I should. Then I would say, all right, Dr. Eric is someone you need to speak to, blood work, and then the potential for HRT, if that's, what's determined. But, he's got his form of assessment for clients. But that's what I would do. And then I would direct him to Dr. Eric and then communicate with him.
So, Dr. Eric, how do you feel about this? I want to say, one, a paradigm shift in regards to the whole anti-aging movement. That's one. And then two, right now, it's still not out there mainstream. What we're doing right now, I don't think that's a common practice. You're not going to find too many trainers still diving into, really emphasizing the role of the blood work. But what are your thoughts on and the importance on the trainer working with the doctors, as what we're discussing right here.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's a good thing. It's a double-edged sword to an effect, but I'm 100% behind what you mentioned, what Kristen mentioned too about working in tandem, because it's a team venture, right? And I love working with guys like Christian and other trainers who know what they're doing and don't take a one-size-fits-all approach and just look at everything and do a deep dive into their health, their lifestyle, nutrition, fitness, sleep, stress, everything. Because that's what I do. I peel the layers of the onion back and I try to get to the root of the problem. I practice more of like what I call cellular medicine. I get down to actually to the cellular level and fix the machinery of the cell through different metabolic parameters, looking at hormones, peptides, nutraceuticals, and all the lifestyle factors, gut, genomics, etc. A lot of things. So I think it's very, very important that someone works with a team, right? If you have a nutritionist, you have a trainer, you have a physician, all these people who are on the same page, and then we can put together a comprehensive approach that hits things from all angles.
100%.
I think it's key to do it that way. And nowadays information is everywhere. That's also what I mentioned, the double-edged sword. There's on the flip side, there's a lot of information overload.
And not good information.
Not good information. And then there's, of course, there's the experts out there who, I'm a hormone expert, or I'm a
they're popping up like crazy now.
Yeah, and they don't,
so they don't be careful. You gotta, to the listeners, you have to vet your trainer and you have to vet your doctor for sure. Due diligence, and always go out there, do the work, and make sure you line up with the correct ones, the right ones. So I want to talk a lot about nutrition. We have our own topics that we want to go into, but I'm very thankful to bioedgesciences, who you work with, and I was very interested, because the listeners would also be very interested in what is very important, as I mentioned earlier, is gut health. And Dr. Fate, you'll chime in here in a bit too. But we have some products here that I want to talk about. So let's start off with gut health. You and I were speaking earlier, how many people don't realize or recognize that gut-brain connection determines how you think, feel, and look. So Christian, talk about, as I said, the difference here is it's all natural. That's
100%.
That's the deal.
So gut health is an extremely important aspect of just a healthy body in general, right? So your gut contains roughly 70% of your immune system. It's also attached to your brain through the vagus nerve. So when your gut is not functioning well, you could argue that your cognitive function takes a backseat, can lead to, 100%. Or at least be a catalyst for depression, or it plays a role in it. And making sure that, one, you're giving yourself the proper foods to feed your body, but then the things to feed your gut. So the cool thing about gut health, like you mentioned, 100% all natural, so no artificial colors or sweeteners. It's also got prebiotic compounds such as fructooligosaccharides, probiotic compounds, bifidobacterium, lactobacillus, which help feed your gut's microflora and can help heal your gut. Right. So you give the food that your body needs, and then you give some of the compounds that your gut can benefit from, because there are so many people that are walking around with things like leaky gut and they don't even know it. Right. They'll eat foods that don't leave them feeling good.
Not recognizing that that's having an impact on the way they feel.
100%.
Like you said, it could be multiple things: anxiety, stress, depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gut health. Yeah. No one really recognizes that. So that's one. And then we have also, as I mentioned, this kind of works in conjunction with that also, right? For digestion issues, etc.
Exactly. So a greens powder. So there's a lot of these out there, right? And again, one of the reasons why I chose to partner with BioEdge and why I love them is that it's all natural products, no artificial sweeteners, no colors. And their flavors are actually oddly good. Like a lot of them you expect, it's going to taste like chalk.
Most are not.
Actually it's actually very good. Yeah. And so nutrient diversity is another important part of proper hormone production and just good health, right? There's a lot of people who eat the same things every day, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But the problem is if you don't have nutrient diversity, phytonutrients, micronutrients, your body cannot operate. Exactly. Yeah. Your body cannot operate as, we'll call it, optimally as it should. So different vitamins and minerals, that is what a product like this gives you. So the cool thing about this is that you can use it at any time. It's not like, you have to use one serving a day or two. If my clients make protein shakes, I'm like, hey, throw some in. In the morning, throw some in. It's good to get vegetables then.
So once or twice a day?
Yeah. You could even have it at every meal. Yeah. It's just like eating vegetables, just in powder form.
Right.
There is no replacement for whole food vegetables. Exactly. I'm going to say that first. But this is a great product to add, to your regimen.
100%. And then lastly, which test, Tell everyone how important that is.
Yeah, so testosterone production for men, I mean, I don't even have to say
Yeah.
it's the lifeblood of the man, right? And there's a lot of testosterone boosters out there, right? Like, hey, this is going to raise your testosterone by 50%, and it's BS, right? Now, testosterone supports the healthy production of testosterone, right? So you've got things in here like vitamin D, which is very important. It's actually a hormone, not even a vitamin, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
I mean, you've got vitamin B6 in here, and you've got long jack extract. So some people recognize that as Tongat Ali.
Yeah.
That's picked up some speed in the last few years. And more importantly is if a man is doing the right things, he's getting the sleep, he's eating the right food, he's getting the exercise, this will help make sure that your body is producing testosterone properly, right? Not going to raise it to those artificial levels that they promise you, but this is going to make sure that, hey, your body's functioning as it should.
And that totally affects, as you said, you know, the recovery process, sleeping, which I think sleep deprivation across the board. I know, you know, if I spoke to 10 people, 8 or 9 out of 10 would say that their sleep patterns are horrible, you know, and then recovery, of course, that's recovery. So Dr. Fate, your thoughts on gut health, the gut-brain connection. Do you think a majority of the people are still not thinking how that gut-brain connection works together and really, you know, finding out what's going on within them, which could really enhance their lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a burgeoning field, and I think every day we're learning more and more what we don't know. We're at the beginning of what we know and what we don't know about the gut, and even things I've learned in the functional medicine space have changed a lot, even in the last year. So, yeah, I think it's picking up in terms of awareness and knowledge, but there's still a lot we don't know. But I see it more and more every day in my patients and clients that have gut issues, and even if they don't know it, by asking them the right questions, I can find out that they have a gut issue. And oftentimes that's one of the underlying things that we need to fix in order to fix everything else. So, because it's not just the gut, but the vagus nerve, as Christy mentioned, but it affects, people get this quote unquote leaky gut, and it induces inflammation throughout the body. And as we all know, inflammation is the number one cause of just about every illness out there. And it causes inflammation in the brain because of the connection. It's a two-way street between the brain and the gut. So when you have a gut inflammation, you have brain inflammation, and that affects, of course, everything in the body. So, symptoms that you wouldn't think of coming from the gut are from the gut, but you really got to dig deep and figure that out. So it's very important to address.
So it's obviously very important to think before you eat.
Yes.
Consume.
That's a good way to put it.
Think long and hard. Is this good for my brain or is it not? Is it good for my gut or is it not? A friend of mine who I just had a conversation talking about gut health, he went for a couple of years, fatigue, lack of sleep, restlessness, depression, the whole realm of things, nothing positive, just couldn't get himself out of this mode. They've come to find he actually had parasites in his small intestine. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty nasty. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Hear more and more about that too. Parasites, and a lot of it's even related to the immune system, what we call immunometabolism, how the metabolism is related to the immune cells in your immune system. And that's intimately related to gut health. That's a whole new burgeoning field of study right now. So it's layers deep, man. So yeah.
So the parasites, they can form. That's obviously a form of bacteria or candida. Is that a form of the bacteria that's actually a parasite?
No, parasites actually a different phylum altogether. Like candida is a yeast. Parasites are things like what you think of like worms, right? People
was, like I said, that was pretty nasty. So you're walking around with these parasites and you don't even know it. And how does one get a parasite, the bacteria, from a food, or it could be anything, I guess, right?
Could be food. It could be walking barefoot on a beach. If there are a lot of people, around the world get things like hookworm and tapeworm and things, and it's from contaminated soil or sand or dirt or grass, food products, contamination, things like that.
And that's sitting in your small intestine, and that was responsible. So the end result there, once he identified the problem, fixed the problem, game changer for him. His life changed. So again, paying attention to what's happening on the inside. And then one last thing before we dive into some other topics with Christian here, Dr. Fate, is testosterone. How many men do you think are walking around on low T and not really addressing the problem, or think that, no, I don't have a problem, and they just ignore the problem? And
a lot. Women too, but definitely men, right, of course. And they either don't realize it, or maybe they think about it but don't want to address it, that they think it's something else, so it's a big problem.
So when someone comes to you, and as you said, you dive deeper into the individual's lifestyle, their activities, what's going on within themselves. So everyone's different. We know. So the conventional, again, not to put a conventional doctor down, but all of a sudden they get the results of the T levels and they say you're normal. But I want you to, you know where I'm going with that, Christian. So you and Dr. Fate, I want you to chime in now on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Eric can speak to this in detail, but I'm just going to say, so I've had several experiences with this, especially in the last 2 years. A client will report to me that they're not feeling optimal. We'll just call it. So I'll say, hey, it's probably a good idea to get blood work. They get blood work, they get their test looked at, free test, total test. They get their thyroid looked at, so on and so forth. And on the spectrum of testosterone norms, right, the doc will say maybe they're 320. Oh, yeah, you're fine. But the guy will say, but I don't feel good. Like, I don't.
Not listening.
Yeah, my sex drive isn't good. I'm having trouble losing fat. I can't gain muscle like I used to. I don't feel good.
All the things that
up,
tea can help you with.
Exactly. And they end up treating a panel versus a person. But like I said, Dr. Eric can speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Doc, get into that.
Yeah, I see this every day, man. It's testosterone, thyroid, you name it. Again, there's a big difference between normal and optimal. And, optimal is kind of thrown out there a lot, but it really comes down to treating the patient and their symptoms, not looking at the numbers. Unfortunately, we've gone away from that in traditional medicine that has anyway. It's just treating the numbers, and it's really about the person. If someone's cold and constipated and dry skin, dry hair, and they're gaining weight, that they've got a thyroid issue. I don't care what the numbers say, because it has to do, same with testosterone, because it's determined by a lot of things, one of which is genetics. Like, one guy at a level of 500 may feel awesome, another guy at 500 may feel like total crap because of their genetic profile. And it has to do with the receptors in the body. You could have plenty of hormones floating around the blood and be normal, but if they're not getting into the cell doing its action because of a problem with the receptor or its ability to get into the cell to do its thing, it doesn't matter. They need it. They need more, and they need other things addressed too. Which sometimes it's not just the answer is given the hormones. Sometimes they have toxins, or we talk about gut health or stressors or nutrient deficiencies we need to address at the same time. That's why it's not, the receptor is not working. So yeah, I see it every day, man. It's there, people are quote unquote normal, but they feel terrible. And I want my patients to feel awesome and great. And that's what my goal is.
And that's what our mission is here too. So we're opening up. So if you're listening, and because one person says, okay, you're fine, you're good, doesn't necessarily mean you're fine and good. Mm-hmm. You really have to talk to other experts to adjust. And it really starts with, which is what I'm going to segue into now, is proper nutrition. We spoke about it briefly, recovery and sleep. How important is that, Christian?
Extremely. So one of the things that I notice in regards to nutrition is that a lot of people treat it very casual, right? There's not a focus on, one, the aspect of, hey, what am I actually eating? So I'll have a client come to me and like, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to, build muscle, whatever it might be. And I'll have them send me a 2-day food log. And I'll say, of course, be honest. Don't, tell me you've been eating, And a lot of times protein especially is so underconsumed. In my opinion, it's one of the most underconsumed, extremely important macronutrients. So people are underconsuming protein. So when they go to do work in the gym, right, they're not actually recovering and getting the benefit that they work so hard for.
Enough protein.
Correct. And then when it comes to carbohydrates, a lot of people are eating processed, right? It's not, I always say.
And the other end of the spectrum,
yes,
they're going the wrong way.
Correct. Right. And I'll say, ideally, you want to eat things from the ground, right, with as little done to it as possible. And then when it comes to vegetables or just nutrient-rich foods like red meat. Now, that's another topic that has gotten a lot of controversy around it in the last few years. Red meat is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. In my personal opinion, high quality, either grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic, is a superfood.
And like the same applies to chicken and any of these foods that you're, going to eat. Organic?
Definitely, yeah. And I would say so if you were to ask me, hey, you can only eat one source of protein for the rest of your life, I would look at either a grass-fed or pasture-raised organic beef, or something like elk, like a wild game meat, over chicken, because chicken is good. It's protein, but the amount of nutrients, the omegas, the zinc, the creatine, and a slew of other nutrients that red meat has, it's good for men. Now, when we talk about heart health and all those things, there's other things to discuss in regards to that. But in general, if you have good internal health, your cardiovascular system is healthy, that stuff is good for you.
So explain the difference between, as you just mentioned, the organic meats and the other meats that are out there. What is the difference?
Okay, so factory farm meats, if any of you guys have seen some of the documentaries like Food Inc., right, which is one of the first big ones that really got people upset, which is good, is that these animals are kept in small cages or just small areas. They're fed corn, soy. They're fed a lot of things that animals don't eat in nature. They're very stressed, so their stress hormones are elevated. They put growth factors, essentially steroids.
So that was an eye opener.
Yes,
that was
in these
for
animals,
a lot of people. Yeah,
yeah, they grow twice as fast. Some of these chickens grow so fast they can't even hold themselves up with their feet. So they're these little piles of meat with a beak, and they force feed them. And then whatever these animals take in, the antibiotics, everything they give them, you eat. So people wonder, hey, why is cancer such a prevalent thing these days? I'm not saying meat's the only reason, but low quality food will wreak havoc on your body.
And what you're consuming. So now what you just mentioned, that's what you're putting into your body. So again, think before you eat.
100%.
Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned it earlier, Dr. Eric. We spoke, got great information there on testosterone, but women, because I don't think that's said enough or often enough that could be a problem, low testosterone in women. So just before we go on, all right, just get the doctor to talk about that.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's one of those myths out there, and it gets talked about a lot, is that testosterone is just for men, and it's very much an issue with women as well. And it's often bigger than what people realize. And a lot of female clients that come to me, they have low testosterone issues too. It's one of the first hormones to drop with women as they get older or have health or stress issues. They lose progesterone, they have thyroid issues, but they lose testosterone very early on too. And it can be a game changer for women. And they don't
be a total game changer, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
So getting those things checked out. So how do you do that? Get your blood work done. Go see Christian, go see Dr. Eric, and then change your life. Moving on to andropause and the health issues that come along with that, Christian.
So, andropause is basically like it's the male version of menopause, right? It's the reduction in testosterone and other hormones, estrogen also, as men age.
Which happens almost immediately, like in 20s, I think they said now, 20s, 30s.
Well, it depends on the person.
Yeah.
These days, with all the endocrine disrupting chemicals, from the chlorine to the fluoride to the parabens, and the lifestyles that people live now, people are more stressed. And it's funny, we're not running from lions, tigers, or bears. 100%. Yeah. But a lack of sleep, gut issues. Yeah. These things are affecting men at an alarming rate, really. I mean, we've got a fraction of the testosterone that our male ancestors had. And these, men are suffering, especially, earlier on in life. So you might have a man who's 25 and normally they'd be fine, vigorous, great sex drive, strength, can stay lean. And nowadays they're like, oh, I'm depressed, I have low T. And you're like, well, you're a kid.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And now it's, there's a lot more. And again, Dr. Eric can speak to this. There's a lot more men that are going to the doctor, like Dr. Eric, younger with these problems that you would see in a man who's 45, 50, 55 and over.
Yeah, I will definitely echo what Kristen said. I'm seeing more and more younger men and women who with issues and symptoms that I typically wouldn't expect to see until much later in life. And I think it has to do with the things you were just talking about, all the toxins in our food and air and water, the xenoestrogens and the plastics, stress, high stress lifestyle, poor diet, nutrient depleted food.
All are major factors in your T levels, right? Yeah. Yep. So have to dial in on that whole thing. And then again, if you're doing the right thing, which is why people would reach out to you, Christian, and if you're doing the right thing, and if I'm a client, I'm coming back and you're prescribing the food and I'm doing all that I need to do, and then it might be that's where you say, well, let's take it to the next level. Let's get your T levels checked out and see where you're at, because that could be as you said, Dr. Eric, that could be the game changer. And then, talking about the TRT and the blood test, we talked about that. But what blood panels men should get to monitor their general health?
So again, Dr. Eric can speak to this, but I'll say the first and foremost, men that are listening right now, if you think you have low T, just get a blood test. Now, this is also something I've run into several times, a couple of weeks ago, and several times over the last 2 years, is that a guy might go to a doctor and say, hey, I want this. I want my free and total test done. I want my thyroid looked at. Everything that would be valid in regards to energy production, fat loss, mood, libido. And the doc might say, well, I don't think that's necessary. And it's like, Well, no, I don't feel great. Can you? Well, I mean, that's a lot of money, and if the insurance company doesn't cover it, you might get a big bill. But if the individual is willing to invest that money, it shouldn't be a problem to get that test. Right. So, anyone out there, if you're listening right now and you've had that problem, don't take no for an answer, or find another doctor. Like Dr. Eric, like I said, can speak to this. It's blood. You can't hide from blood. It shows you what is going on inside your body. And for a doctor to say that, no, we don't want to do this, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to say that's verging on like a malpractice kind of vibe. And I think that if you think there's an issue, get it looked at. The worst you can say is it looks fine. Right?
Yeah, no, you got to get checked out, and it's a game changer. We talked about the TRT and the cortisol, and like you said, the stress factors of in today's society. Multiple of things, even for our younger kids today. I just see that they're very stressed out, especially with social media. I think that plays a big, unfortunately, a negative impact. Even when my daughter was younger, I see the way these kids and what they do on the social media. And that's having impact on others tremendously. So. Fixing that begins with the foods, but also begins with monitoring, what you expose yourself to. Yes. As we get older, management of your thoughts, management of your actions, management of what you consume, whether it's eating or reading. As I said, is this good for my brain or is it not? Is it good for my gut or is it not? Making smart, intelligent decisions and choices and habits and behaviors. I mean, it comes down to really mental attitude. When people want to change their life, you think about it, but no one's going to change you. You got to change yourself. You got to, I know you guys know this, but so many people out there want to change. But what I find, because, we're all human, right? I go through my roller coaster of life. There's definitely not peachy every day. So, but when I find that I'm going through those times, those are the times I force myself to do what I don't want to do, which if I don't want to go work out, if I'm too tired. One game changer for me, I don't know if you guys try this, but so I guess about 2 months ago, I want you to talk about the cold plunge, Dr. Eric, in a second. So in the morning, so I've been reading about it and, it didn't really register, but then as I'm reading more and listening more, I said, okay, we'll try it. But I've been doing it now for 2 months and I have to tell you, I hate it. I dread it, but there's so many psychological positives from it, because when I would get up, I get up very early. I get up like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, get ready for my day. I have my own morning rituals, my habits, but it used to be, okay, get up and absorb that nice warm water, just take my time. But now I sit at the base of the shower and I just keep saying, I don't want to effing do this. And I make sure that it's nice and cold, right? And I'm sitting there and I just try. What it does, it forces me to relax, because the first time I did it, I practically jumped to the ceiling. I shook and, could have pulled a muscle or something. My whole body went to a convulsion. So I forced myself to relax. But now for me, this changed my whole mindset, because now I'm starting the day off doing something I do not want to do. I don't want to do it. And that's what the problem is with people, is they procrastinate and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So the line, be comfortable being uncomfortable, that's frozen in my mind. No pun. No pun. Yeah. So as I'm sitting there first thing in the morning, but it wakes me right up. It whatever, even I woke up feeling like crap, I just that just wakes me right up.
Better than coffee.
It's a game changer for me. But so, Dr. Eric, what are your thoughts on the cold plunge and the benefits of the physical? I want to talk about the physical benefits and value of that.
Man, I love it. I love those comments, and I'm a big fan of the cold therapy. I do heat therapy and cold therapy, but I'm a big fan as well. I do the same thing, usually first thing in the morning with a cold shower. A lot of benefits, and like you said, I'm a big fan of the same, of pushing your body, doing something that feels uncomfortable. Whether it's sleeping on the hard floor, a cold plunge, a hot, going in the sauna, doing something, pushing your body, making your body adapt and become stronger. And then once you start doing it, it's those habits. Once you do it enough, you feel uncomfortable not doing it. Everybody has their routine. And I feel like if I don't do my shower, don't do my meditation, I feel off. So I got to do it. But cold 100%. Therapy is great. Like, as you said, it'll wake you up. It gets epinephrine going, and it can definitely help if you time it right with your workout and everything. It can help with fat burning. It stimulates the dopamine production, which is going to last throughout the day. And like some other things for dopamine that kind of come and go, it's going to give you a longer dopamine burst throughout the day. It activates things called cold shock proteins, which can help with your immune system and stress resilience and healing and many other things too. So it can help you with recovery, can help with healing, help with your neurotransmitters in your brain. And of course, it'll wake you the hell up.
Yeah, no, I love it. Christian, you do the cold shower?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Awesome,
yeah,
brother.
It's
Christian.
I will say it's easier in the summer.
So how long have you been doing the cold shower?
A couple of years now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm
a newbie.
Yeah, I first learned about it through Dr. Rhonda Patrick. I used to, when she was on Joe Rogan, she was talking about it a while back, and started reading about all the things Dr. Eric just talked about, and I'm like, yeah, I feel good energetically, but why not?
Yeah.
Right. So I started doing it, and Dr. Eric's right. It's like you almost get addicted because that discomfort, you start to, once you get to a certain place mentally, when you almost use discomfort as a vitamin.
Exactly.
You start to look for it. Where can I be uncomfortable in like a hormetic way that's good for me?
Right.
So.
And that's just the whole thing. You just start your day off. Like I said, that's your reference point throughout the day. You don't want to do it. And there's days that today I could do the warm shower, but I just knocked that guy right out. No, you're not. We're doing the cold shower. It's every day. I'm not going to miss the day because I know that's the game changer, because I'm going to reference back later on, whether it's work or the workout or whatever it might be. That's my great reference, is that you do it anyway. Don't want to do it. I dread it, but I do it anyway.
Yeah, don't think about it. Don't ruminate. Just get in there and turn it down and go.
Exactly.
Just do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's
it's like
right.
jumping in the pool.
That's right. That's right. A friend of mine was saying, no, I don't know if I could do it. And then he says, I'm going to just start it off warm. And then no,
that's worse. You get
go, baby. Go.
Warm. No, cold. I turn it on for 3 minutes to make sure it's nice and cold.
Yeah.
And then it's waking up. But yeah, so nutrition. So let's talk a little bit about more of the elite athlete, Christian. So, diet, nutrition, back to protein, maybe a ratio. I know there's no cookie cutter, and there is no cookie cutter. There never is. But someone who's the difference between someone just looking to get in shape and the elite athlete. How often, you hear many more frequent meals throughout the course of the day, more protein. How much protein typically, or is there the formula? What's the formula, would you say, for protein intake?
That's a great question. So what I generally would tell people, if you're looking to maintain your muscle and you're a fairly active person, 0.8 to 1.0 grams per pound of lean body weight. That's generally a good place to be. If you're looking to build muscle, 1.0 grams to 1.2 grams per pound of lean body weight. You don't need to eat for your fat tissue. So that's a good place to be where, hey, I'm doing resistance training. I'm trying to either build muscle or recover well, or get stronger. That'll give you enough protein to support, your hair, nails, eyes, skin, all the things really everything in your body that needs protein. But when we talk about muscle, that'll give you enough to make sure you recover well from your workouts and activity.
So that there's so many things that you could do just naturally to help your lifestyle. Management, as we spoke about. A quick few bullet points. Assess your lifestyle. Assess what you're exposing yourself to. Is this good or is it bad? And then the same with your eating habits and your supplements. So let's just give people ways to increase testosterone naturally through foods and, of course, supplementation.
So, okay, I'm glad you brought this up. First and foremost, I'm going to say sleep. Everyone's looking for magic bullets, right? What's the secret food or the secret supplement? If you don't get sleep, elevated cortisol, decreased insulin sensitivity, which decreases your ability to burn fat, manage stress, digestive health can take a backseat. Sleep is such an important part of the human being's health that I would be, I wouldn't be doing my career justice if I didn't mention that as top of the hill.
Right.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to food, again, you keep things simple. If it's packaged, processed, if it comes from a drive-through, probably not a good idea, right? You want to stay away from the fried foods and the things that cause
that slows the
inflammation.
process down. Could also have the reverse effect.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you look at things chronically. It's like if you want to go out on the weekend and have, a burger and fries and maybe even a donut, whatever it is, that's fine if you do it once in a while. But if you're chronically eating these foods, you're setting yourself up for failure. Then you couple that on top of a lack of sleep, Then, you mentioned it before, is that dopamine. So if you're on your phone all the time on social media, you're
That's a
getting
huge
this,
impact.
you're getting this dopamine release, but you didn't work for it. It's not like, hey, I just went out there and,
Right.
and
Effort. Effort.
exactly.
That's where
Killed
you
the
get
animal
dope.
and
Yeah.
feed the family.
Yeah.
It built the log
100%,
cabin, but you're just tapping it, and then you get the dopamine release. People are feeling depressed because dopamine, it's like a cat with a bell, and you give them the food,
100%.
ding, 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 and you end up feeling like, and I think a lot of people also, when they look at social media, they think life should be more exciting every day than it really
because
is.
life's so exciting for all those out there because you don't see the other side.
Correct.
Right.
So, and this has an effect on
The
testosterone
comparisons.
production.
Why am my life not like that? Why
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, that's that. So management on social media for sure. And it sounds like we're all sort of on the same page or on morning habits and rituals. I don't sway from them. I have a list of things that I do in the morning just to get my mind right and my mind prepared for what I'm about to do. I don't look at the phone at all first. It's everything else first, and then that's last. And I finally get to the emails, and then of course we all have to pay attention to our social media up, because for business purposes, really, that's what we do. But I want to talk about fat loss. So people, as we know, there's a difference, especially with women. There's a difference between weight loss and fat loss. So many women out there want to lose weight, but I also want to talk about the thyroid, Dr. Eric. A lot of women out there that are going around with all sorts of emotional things happening in their life. How can they address that? So one is, Christian, the difference between fat loss and weight loss.
Okay, so this actually couples with my mention of protein before, is that what some people will do when they're in crash diet mode is like, I just got to get the weight off. Summer's right around the corner. I got to get my summer body, or I got the reunion coming up, or a wedding. And they'll just say, I'm just going to cut food. I'm going to cut carbs, less fat. And because they're just focused on eating less food as a whole, they might be getting less protein. But then they're in the gym all day on the treadmill or the elliptical, and they're lifting weights. So they're breaking their body down and not giving enough nutrients to repair it, which will work against fat loss. You're adding more work to the body, stress, allostatic load, right? And then you're not giving it the fuel it needs to give you what you want, which is the fat loss, the muscle. So a lot of people they might lose a few pounds in the beginning, but then they get stuck. Then they think, well, maybe I should work out more, and maybe I should eat less.
Right.
And then you just keep digging yourself in a deeper hole. And if you do that long enough, because some people it really gets in their head when they step on the scale and they're pissed it didn't go down, then they're in this like perma fat loss phase for a year, right? And then it's like, well, now maybe you just gave yourself metabolic adaptation. So now your metabolism is slowly decreasing to accommodate the lack in food.
Right.
And so I always say that start off with the basis of getting enough protein. That is a big part of fat loss, in my opinion, and what I focus on with my clients. Then when it comes
protein is not found in bread, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Or peanut butter. I don't know why people think peanut butter is a great source of protein. And then, give yourself the carbohydrates you need to perform, right? They're not bad. They're not going to make you fat. Too much of any good thing, you could deplete your electrolytes by chugging gallons of water at once and kill yourself. Right.
So then also the importance of strength training, as opposed to, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to get on the treadmill for 60 minutes, as opposed to incorporating the weight training, strength training.
So I think, in my professional and personal opinion, is weight training is actually more beneficial for fat loss than cardio. Because again, your muscle is an engine for your metabolism. Your muscle is a metabolically active tissue. It burns calories while you're sitting down and while moving. If you make that engine bigger, then it's going to need more fuel. So if you go and lift weights, you're burning more calories if you have more muscle, even while you're just walking around during the day. And another thing is that fat loss does not have to be all high intensity intervals where you're killing yourself and sweating and breathing. Walking is one of the best ways to burn fat. A brisk walk, like you're late for a meeting. That's what I tell people. Walk like you're late for a meeting. The more steps you get, the more fat you're going to burn. And it doesn't matter if you've just eaten before or it's fasted, there's discussions among that, but you're going to burn fat regardless. So get more steps, lift more weights, eat more protein.
That's awesome. I want to remind me, intermittent fasting. I want your thoughts on that. Dr. Eric, thyroid management in women, your thoughts there. What are the symptoms of possibly something's off, and what would they do to help fix the problem?
Yeah, for sure. Thyroid's a big problem nowadays, and I definitely want to echo what Christian said. That one of my taglines is, muscle medicine. I try to focus on the muscle because it's an endocrine organ. It does a lot of benefits on the body, endocrinology in terms of hormone production, so many myokine production, all these other things. So I kind of go against the grain a little bit, building that muscle up, and then the fat will take care of itself, like Christian said. So very, very, very important, especially for women. And thyroid plays into that as well. You need thyroid hormone optimization for everything to work. You need it for your growth hormone to work. You need it for your testosterone to work. And of course, your overall metabolism. Thyroid is involved with pretty much every function in the entire human body. And like we talked about earlier, with everything going on in the world, the toxins, nutrient depletion, gut health is big. It's a bigger problem now more than ever, men and women. We've seen a rise of autoimmune conditions and more people getting subtle thyroid issues. And similar to the testosterone, it gets underdiagnosed because people dismiss it, or they get a lab test that says it's quote unquote normal, but they still have all the symptoms. And oftentimes that's the missing link. Oftentimes people with other things, I just have some brain fog, or I just don't feel well, or these subtle little things. And it's related to the thyroid, and it can help with all these things. It can definitely help with weight loss, but that's just one of the many things that it does. So it's a big, big problem. I'm seeing more and more women with PCOS, with irritable bowel syndrome, men with testosterone issues, and they've actually got some thyroid issues going on at the same time. So it's extremely common, and it's very tricky to work on, and you have to be very careful with how you treat it.
And also who you're speaking with, as we spoke about earlier, because one says you're fine, you may not be fine. Doing your research and getting the right person is really going to help and assist you. Intermittent fasting, Christian, your thoughts on that?
Okay. I think it can be very useful. I think it caught a lot of traction for fat loss. I think that a lot of people don't go about it the right way. I think so. A person, let's say your average everyday person who maybe has a small breakfast, maybe it's toast and coffee. They go and have a lunch, they eat out somewhere at a fast food joint, and then they come home for dinner and they're either starved, so they have this huge calorically dense dinner, and then they're like, okay, well, I want to lose fat, so let's just start eating less. So they'll say, I'm going to fast for 16 hours. So let's say they totally skip breakfast altogether, and maybe they have a lighter dinner. The problem is a lot of times is they just decrease the total amount of food they eat. So they're eating less protein, but they're still working out just as much. And sometimes if you don't go about it correctly and they start getting those hunger pangs and they don't know how to deal with it, sometimes they binge eat. So oftentimes, and I've come across this with clients who come to me for nutrition coaching, is that they'll have nutrient deficiencies because they're trying to eat less, but they don't realize that you really need, in that a block of time you give yourself to eat, it should be nutrient dense food, but they're still eating the same thing. Well, I just have a grilled chicken salad, and I'll have I'll make sure I drink a bunch of water, and for dinner I just have some meat and some vegetables. It's like, well, that's all you're eating. How many days a week you're working out? Well, 5 days, and I'm not getting sleep as well as I should. Yeah. So I think that it can be beneficial if you go about it right, but it is not a secret method. Right. You can burn just as much fat by eating 4 meals throughout the day that are well rounded and doing a proper amount of exercise. Right. It's not one of those things where, hey, you're gonna skyrocket past the person eating a good caloric amount and nutrient with a lot of nutrient diversity.
To continue with the gut health, I think another important topic is food sensitivity, causing inflammation. What foods your body may be sensitive to. So in your blood panels, does that show up that your body might be allergic or sensitive to certain foods? Or do you go out and do you do separate testing for that?
So again, Dr. Eric can I'm sure speak to this. So there are food sensitivity tests, but a lot of them you get false positives. So, okay, a person, there's food allergies and then sensitivities.
Right,
allergies
there's a difference. There's a difference.
I have a major reaction, maybe throat closes, I can't breathe, hives, whatever it is. Yeah. Then there's a sensitivity. A lot of people notice that with gluten, and it's not always necessarily gluten. Sometimes it's the glyphosate in the food, but that's a whole nother topic. But somebody will eat something and they'll
feel bloated.
Correct.
Indigestion.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I can't poop as easily as I usually do, or I'm gassy and bloated.
Right.
Generally, I'll say, take a look at if let's say it's a processed food. I mean, I would tell you not to eat it in general, but whatever food you're eating, if it's not just like, hey, if it's an apple, you already know what's in it.
Right.
Look what's in the food. See if there's ingredients in there maybe you can't pronounce or you're not sure what they are. Look at what those are. Maybe it's an artificial sweetener. Sometimes people eat things like xylitol or
That's a huge problem. People don't know what they're eating because they don't really take the time to
Yes.
dial in. And just as we're speaking now, how many will really make that extra effort to actually know what am I putting into my body?
Mhm.
They don't take that time.
Yeah.
So the food sensitivity that plays a role in inflammation, though, if your body's bloated but like you said, you have to be careful with how you go about that too, because you get false positives, right?
Exactly. And then, briefly is that sometimes, so if you don't treat your body well, not enough sleep, maybe insufficient exercise, eating a lot of carbohydrates and very little sleep and so on and so forth. Let's say you have low insulin sensitivity, you got gut issues, you're overweight. If you develop and you're eating processed foods that are causing inflammation, let's say you start to get leaky gut, a food that you may have been able to eat years ago that was fine and healthy for you
100%.
is now
100%.
an enemy to your body,
Right.
because now it's
And that happens-
permeating through your gut
yes.
wall, right? And now you're thinking, oh, well, this is bad for me. Not necessarily. Maybe it's
Right.
bad for you right now in the current condition of your
Right.
gut. So that's another thing, is that just because
It's not
you have an
forever.
issue,
It's
correct.
not forever.
So maybe you have to fix it, build up the armor,
Right.
that mucosal lining around your gut, and then you can go back to eating foods that are good for you.
Right. So just a quick, make sure you check out bioedgesciences. Can't thank them enough for sponsorship participation. And they're great products here. You have greens complex, you have the gut health, and then you have
Test support.
to test support. So you can go to bioedgesciences.com. You can also go to their Instagram, bioedgesciences. Then, of course, you can follow Christian at
Christian F. Palmer on Instagram and Christian Palmer on Facebook.
and Dr. Fate.
Yeah, Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric Fate on Instagram, Dr. Eric Primex on Facebook, or you just go to my personal page, Dr. Eric Fate, and drericprimex.com is my main website. Primex Weight Loss is my weight loss website. So I got a ton of content out there, and thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a great conversation.
I greatly appreciate it. So, this show, it's also for you trainers out there, because we want to help you grow. We want to help you succeed, because you are a great asset to society. You motivate, you educate, and that's what we're here to do. So the purpose of this whole thing is really bringing everyone together as a team. Football teams, basketball teams, there's different coaches for different things. And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to bring everyone together. In addition, aside from what we're doing here, Muscle Fitness Plus, I know Christian has a dedicated channel on Muscle Fitness Plus platform that gives trainers the opportunity to share your knowledge, to share your passion with on a global brand. So Christian, thanks for being part of that. I mean, Christian and both Dr. Fate were awesome. So again, it's about content, good content, the right content. You can find Christian's channel on Muscle Fitness Plus, but for trainers out there interested, you can DM me at Rob Fletcher Podcast, and I will send you some details on how to do that. Again, it's very important that you pay attention to your business. Getting 100 clients and burning yourself out, it's not going to help you. It's management of your time, your scheduling, and staying in the game, because we want you in the game. So take advantage of that. In closing, Christian, motivation, I think, discipline, to me, there's a couple of big words here. Motivation, discipline. So what advice would you give to people because so many, it's physical health and mental health today. It's really, those two things are so important. What would you say to encourage someone or motivate or inspire someone to take those steps? Because the majority of people are still not taking care of themselves, either way, physically or mentally. So what would you say to help get them to take the first step?
So first and foremost, I would say come up with a plan. Be specific on what you want to achieve. Do you want to lose weight? How many pounds, right? Being general, you generally will go about it in a general way. So if you want to build muscle, how many pounds? The other thing is you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success by doing things in steps. A person who is confident and achieving their goals usually has several wins throughout the day. So it might start with, hey, don't hit the snooze button. Today, get up. And maybe that's your one win for the day. If you're still very
100%.
new, maybe that's your one
100%.
win, right? If they're like, hey, I don't really know much about weightlifting. Okay, do you know that walking's good? Yes. go for a 10-minute walk. It might seem minuscule, but if you do that, you're going to feel good about it. You're going to get that dopamine hit from doing
That's
the work.
right, the effort.
Then you're going to want to
That's
do
right.
it tomorrow. And then when it comes to exercise, start small. Maybe some bodyweight squats, maybe some push-ups. If you're already familiar with the gym, make a realistic goal. I'm going to get to the gym twice this week for 30 minutes. Don't say I'm going to go 6 days. And
It's all
'cause
about
then you're
small
gonna
little
quit.
wins, like you said,
Correct.
throughout the course of the day, developing those habits and having the discipline to make that change. Another point is small, gradual goals every day. Don't make it impossible or realistic, achievable. You guys were awesome. In closing, Dr. Fate, I can't thank you enough. Looking forward to having you guys on again. Thank you much for listening. Our listeners out there can't thank you enough. Hit them up on social media, Christian Palmer, Dr. Eric Fate, and keep living a lifestyle of positive, healthy, fit, confident, and strong. And tune into Rob Fletcher Podcast.